So let me ask you a quick question. Would you like to become a millionaire? Now the chances are, if you clicked on this video, you probably do, and in which case you have three options. 1, you can get lucky and win the lottery. Or 2, you can inherit a bunch of money from your rich family. Now I wasn't willing to gamble, and sadly I didn't have a trust fund waiting for me, so I had to take the third option. And that was to become an entrepreneur and build a successful business. Now most of my friends who are also millionaires took this route as well, several of them that I've featured on this channel before. Now let me ask you another question. Why do you think that we have been so successful? A lot of people will say luck, and yes, luck certainly helps, but as you're going to discover in this video, some of that luck we made ourselves. Because you see, there are 5 different tricks that millionaires use every day that almost nobody out in general society trapped in day jobs does. So, what's the first trick? 1, millionaires use numbers to trick their brains. So something that I've talked about before on this channel is how merchants like me use numbers to trick our customers into thinking products are cheaper so that they will buy more and spend more. But the cool thing is that I and pretty much every $1 million business owner that I know uses numbers to trick ourselves. In stores, almost all prices end with 95 cents or 99 cents, $19.95 or $19.99. Well, JCPenney decided to see what would happen if they changed the price of their items from $19.99 to $20, and the results were incredible. This simple change made sales plummet by 30%. Now this may seem crazy, it's just a difference of 1 cent, right? Well, it's because of the power of the left digit effect. We pay the most attention to the first digit we see in a number. So if we see a price tag of $19.99, the first number we see is a 1. And if we see a price tag of $20, the first digit we see is a 2. And so even though the difference in prices is just 1 cent, it tricks the brain into thinking it's significantly cheaper. Now this is just one psychological pricing tactic, and almost all of them have the same goal, and that is to make numbers appear smaller. The smaller the number, the cheaper it is and the less intimidating that it looks. And this applies to almost everything, including our financial goals. So maybe you're watching this and you think, Sarah, I don't need $1 million, $10,000 a month. That's fine for me. Well, $10,000 a month is $329 a day. And $329 a day is just $14 an hour. And for many businesses and stores, $14 in profit can be made from just one single sale. So while $10,000 a month on its own may seem intimidating, when you break it down to its hourly rate, it's not so hard, and now you can set manageable goals to reach it. 2, millionaires use promotion framing when presented with choices. Behavioral science has shown that people fall into 2 different types of categories. The first are people that use promotion framing, and the second are people that use prevention framing. To explain what they are, let's say that Jessica and Ryan had both been given the task of baking a cake for a birthday party. Jessica uses promotion framing, so when given the task, she thinks, I can't wait to eat a delicious cake. My friends are going to really enjoy it. Basically, Jessica is focused upon what she can gain from baking the cake. But Ryan, on the other hand, he uses prevention framing. When presented with the task, Ryan thought, what if my cake doesn't rise? What if people don't like it? Ryan's prevention mindset means that when he's presented with a choice, he is focused upon what he has to lose and is focused on trying to preserve what he has. Because of this, when asked to bake a cake, Ryan says no, but Jessica says yes. Now can you guess which camp most people fall into in life? Of course, most people are focused on prevention, and science has shown us that that is a bad way to get rich. In 1966, before becoming a billionaire, 16-year-old Richard Branson noticed something. All of the magazines aimed at kids his age were dull and boring. And so he came up with a business idea. Make a magazine that kids would actually want to read, and that magazine he decided should be called Student. Now at this point, most people's prevention mindset would have kicked in. I don't know how to make a magazine. I'm just 16. What if no one buys it and I lose all of my investment money? And if it fails, people will laugh at me. I don't want to lose money, and I don't want people to mock me. Probably shouldn't start the magazine. Of course, Branson did not take that attitude at all. Instead, he viewed it through the lens of promotion framing, and 16-year-old Branson went on to launch his first successful business. True story, I was actually at a business retreat in December 2017. It was being held in Puerto Rico. The people running the retreat were friends with Branson. And so, while flying in his private jet to his private island on a whim, he made a surprise detour to come and hang out and say hi for 15 minutes. It blew my mind. At that point, I realized that he was so rich that he was able to treat his plane like a car. But it wasn't always this way. In the beginning, he had to find the confidence and willingness to do the number one thing that pretty much every business needs to do to make money, and that is to sell things to people. For a long time, it was thought that there were 5 traits integral to success when it comes to doing well in sales and getting rich selling things to people: extroversion, happiness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and curiosity. These are called the 5 big personality traits. But recent studies have shown that perhaps the biggest indicator of whether you'll be successful at sales isn't these things at all. It's whether you use promotion framing or prevention framing. In 2018, a team of scientists took a group of sales reps and did a personality assessment on each participant. They scored them on their 5 big personality traits and whether they used promotion framing or prevention framing when faced with decisions. They then sent them out into the wild and for 5 days recorded how many sales each participant made. At the end of the study, they looked at which sales reps made the most sales and saw what traits the richest ones had in common. The result, while being extroverted, happy, conscientious, agreeable, and curious, definitely helped, the trait that the most successful sales reps had in common was indeed promotion framing. 3. They study their biological rhythms. You know, you may have seen quotes like this from motivational gurus talking about the importance of hard work. But you know what? I completely disagree with Gary. While you're out there hustling, millionaires are out there sleeping. In 1960, psychologist Nathaniel Kleitman hooked up an EEG machine to patients' heads to study the electrical currents in their brains while they slept, and through that he discovered what we know now as REM sleep and non-REM sleep. Most of us know what this is. On average, we get 90 minutes of restful, deep, dreamless, non-REM sleep, and then this is followed by 20 minutes on average of REM sleep, in which we are active and dreaming. We sleep like this in cycles throughout the night. What a lot of people don't know though is that he didn't just study sleep. He did this experiment on people who were awake too, and he discovered that just like when we're asleep, our body goes in cycles, but flipped. People on average have 90 minutes of activity and then they have 20 minutes of downtime. Unfortunately, if you take a quick look on social media, you will discover that posting motivational porn like these quotes here, encouraging you to ignore the rest that your body and mind cries for, is fashionable and very popular. But as I discussed and shared in a video on this channel, if you ignore your mind and body's cries for help, the results can be disastrous. Yes, I used to work long hours even when I was tired in the hopes of being successful. While it initially helped me, I ended up becoming depressed and burnt out. Why? Well, as a Swedish study showed, as we work, we're firing different neurons in our brain, and if we fire them too much, our brain overcompensates by trying to fire them more efficiently, and it actually rewires your brain so that now neurons fire together, and so it becomes harder to access important parts of the brain like focus, concentration, and our ability to use logic. This rewiring is what we know as burnout. Once you're burnt out, you're a mess. You're emotionally unstable and struggle to focus and do work. Basically, you become useless. Ultimately, I had to learn a hard lesson. If you push through and ignore your body's cries for help, you don't gain extra energy. You're simply borrowing that energy from your future self, and you are going to have to pay that energy back with interest. Everyone has their own energy cycle, and most millionaires I know did end up burning out during the starting phases of their businesses, but they learnt from their mistakes. They listened to their body and their brain now, and now they work with their energy levels rather than against it, and as a result they are more productive in the long term, and thus in the long term they make more money. 4. Millionaires use money to buy happiness. Now you might be thinking, well gee, golly gosh Sarah, look at that Burberry shirt you're wearing. Of course you can afford to buy happiness. I'm not a millionaire, I can't buy happiness. Well, you know what? This shirt that I bought here, this bought me no happiness. Nope, no happiness from the shirt at all. But when you say that you can buy happiness, that's what most people think. But it's not, and understanding how to buy true, lasting happiness is one of the key tenets to getting rich. And so you buy that nice new shirt and it looks great on you and you are happy for today, but each subsequent day you wear that shirt, it makes you less and less happy until eventually it brings you no extra joy to wear it at all. Why? Well, a 2017 study highlights the answer. A group of people were tasked with spending $40 over a weekend. The catch was they had to spend it on things that would save them time from doing things they didn't like. So they could use it for meal prep services or hire someone to clean the house for them. The next weekend, they were given $40 again. This time, the catch was they had to buy an object. It could be anything that they wanted. One participant bought a nice polo shirt. Another bought a fancy bottle of wine. Each weekend, the participants rated how happy they were. The result, they were on average far happier the first weekend compared to the second. And that's because while stuff makes us initially happy, the more we see it and use it, the more normalized it becomes until it's not special anymore. This is called adaptation. The researchers decided to take this one step further. They polled 6,000 people in the USA, Canada, and Europe. The group had a median household income of $75,000. Each participant was asked how much money they spent on time-saving purchases like meal prep services or buying robotic vacuum cleaners for their home. Afterwards, they then rated their happiness on a scale of 1 to 10. The result, people who spent any money on this at all sat 1 point higher on the happiness scale. Even though most people on normal incomes could choose to spend $40 a week outsourcing a job that they hate, they will instead opt to keep that money so that they can spend it on more stuff. And that's because most people view money as a scarce resource, and so they would rather preserve their money and instead spend their time so that they could save $40. But rich people, they see time as the most scarce resource of all, and that is what they budget and manage. So ask yourself, how much of your extra money do you spend on things that could save you time? Until you're willing to do this, you will struggle to become wealthy. 5, they become friends with people who are more successful than themselves. Now, a lot of million-dollar business owners that I know spend a lot of money going to retreats, and in fact, I'm actually going to be going to one directly after being here in Calgary. And we do that so that we can learn tips and tricks from each other. But there's actually another reason. You may have heard the phrase, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, this isn't actually true. Science has shown that it goes much deeper than that. 2 researchers, Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler, were studying the data collected from the Framingham Heart Study, one of the largest and longest running ever health studies, spanning 3 decades, when they noticed something. If a friend of yours develops obesity, you are 45% more likely to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. And if a friend of yours becomes obese, you are roughly 20% more likely to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years, even if you don't know them. And if a friend of your friend becomes obese, you are roughly 10% more likely to gain weight, again, even if you don't know them. In other words, it's not just your friends that influence you, it's your greater social circle. They decided to test it again, this time with smoking. They found that if you have a friend that smokes, you are 61% more likely to smoke as well. And if a friend of a friend smokes, you are 29%. And if a friend of your friend smokes, the likelihood that you do is still 11%. So yes, our friends do indeed influence us, but so do their friends, and their friends of friends. And so if you spend time with people who are successful, not only will their success and life lessons rub off on you, but the success and life lessons of their friends will as well. Thanks for watching this video, and if you would like to have your own successful online business, but you don't know how, then you should be sure to download our free ebook, The 6 Steps that 6-figure dropshipping stores use to make over $10,000 a month. To get that ebook for yourself, simply click on the link in the video description below.